Well, a lot of people here. This is great. A little bit of a hiccup there, but we're back on track. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. This is great. I guess this is a little bit of a, it's kind of ironic, you know, because this is the way the grid is, you know, things can be, you know, 1 minute they're great, next minute they're not, and this is just a prime example of that. But I'm glad it was a quick recovery, and I want to thank everybody for coming to OS Grid 5th birthday. It's been interesting. You know, with all you guys here, this is really great. I got a few people I want to thank for doing all this planning and setup. I want to thank some of the grid admins, Dan Banner and Key Gruen, and one you guys don't really see much lately is Warren Cascabel. I really want to thank Aaron Gellin and Graybeard Thinker for planning all of this and setting up all these great, all the great OSG 5B sims. They did a really great job laying out the terrains, laying out the parcels, getting everybody set up. I was really amazed at how fast everybody got them filled up, and there's a lot of great builds. And it's definitely after this and after the next event here, you guys are definitely want to get out and do some exploring and check out all the great parcels and all the cool builds, and there's probably a bunch of freebies. So, you know, make sure you get out and do that. It's a lot of fun. A couple other really good helpers on OS Grid. One who's not here today, he's been quite busy in his personal life lately, is Dave Coyle. I want to thank James Stallings. You guys all know him, either to Twitch or Hero Protagonist. I think he's here somewhere in the crowd. He's been key to a lot of success here, and, you know, helping people and hosting servers and a lot of good stuff. Another person who has been kind of behind the scenes, you guys probably don't really know much about him. His name is Kevin Cozens. His IRC handle is Plug, and he did a lot of work on OS profiles, and it's just been helpful with some of the code there, a lot of web stuff. So he's been very helpful, key to making the grid work. I mentioned Warren a minute ago, and he was also helpful with some of the website stuff and the map and things like that. So I just want to give these guys all, I know you guys think I'm do everything here, but to be honest, I play a real little role I would consider anyway, but I do a lot of things, you know, without all these other people, it's awesome. Some of the Open Simulator developers I want to give some recognition to. Some are still active, some are not. I think it's important that when you run into these people, volunteering, because again, this is all 100% volunteer. None of us get paid. I don't get paid. None of the admins get paid. You know, some of the developers are, you know, doing their own contracting stuff, but they're not really getting paid to work on Open Simulator. It's still all 100% volunteer. Some of those people, I don't know if any of them are here today. I don't really see any of them in the crowd, but that's okay. But if you see them, you know, thank them. And I want to thank Justin. Everybody probably knows Justin Clark Casey. He's actually the leader, like president, kind of like my role here on OS Grid. He plays that role for the Open Simulator project. So he's a really important guy. He's been doing a lot of great fixes and stuff lately. Without him, you know, things would definitely not be as good as they are. Justin's responsible for a lot of the regression testing and stuff that you guys you don't ever see, and probably wouldn't even appreciate or understand. Some of the stuff he does is just crazy, and so if you see him, and you probably are likely to see him here at the Tuesday meetings at Wright Plaza, I'm sure most everyone here has probably said at least one thing to Justin. So definitely someone to watch out for. He's a good guy, great guy. I want to thank Dahlia Trimble. She's also kind of like a, behind the scenes OS Grid person, as well as a Open Simulator core developer. She does a lot of stuff with the mesh engine, with the not so much mesh prims that you guys know, but more of like the physics meshing. Meshmerizer is what it's called, and she wrote a lot of that. She's responsible for a lot of that. She's even still been recently fixing a few bugs in there, and another really important role here at Open Simulator and OS Grid. So if you see her, you're likely you are to see her here also at the Tuesday meetings on Wright Plaza. So make sure you say hi, tell her thanks. I'd like to thank Melanie over at Avination Grid. You guys probably all know Melanie. You probably don't see her here much. She's not in OS Grid much, but again, she's played some major behind-the-scenes roles with OS Grid, fixing our database at times. She's saved the grid a few times in terms of just major disasters occurring that she was just used her magic and got it working. And again, she's also very important to the Open Simulator project. Contributed a ton of code. Her group over at Avination, they're constantly contributing code. Recently, stuff like the what is it? I can't remember the name of this script function now, but it was a script function she just recently contributed, and she's constantly poking and tweaking things and fixing bugs. And she's usually one of my major go-to people when I have find a security issue or some kind of major bug. She's usually the first person I go to. So, if you see her, definitely thank her as well, because I constantly thank her for her work. I'd like to thank Krista Lopez. She just another really key person to the whole project. She's responsible for most of the hypergrid stuff that you guys all come to love and use, and I know it's pretty popular. Not everyone loves it, but it's definitely, I think, more of the future than what like Second Life is, where it's just one major solid grid like we kind of are here, which is great. It allows people to come together. But I think there's going to be a point at which the grid just it'll just become too gigantic, and people are going to want to probably have better controls over their own destinies and things like that. And that's where hypergrid really is important, because it keeps everybody tied together but gives everybody control of their own grid. So Krista, that's really important part she has done there for the whole project. And if you use hypergrid, let Krista know you enjoy it, and make sure she knows. I'd like to thank some of the guys over at Intel, Dan Lake, Mick Bowman, and Robert Adams. They have done a lot of contribution of code as well. They worked on things like new physics engine, and just a bunch of other scripting things. And they, again, real vital guys to the project. They bring a lot of horsepower with them. Working with Intel, they have a huge array of knowledge over there, and again, really important. So if you see those guys, let them know. Also want to thank actually Blue Wall, who is here with us today. He's been doing some pretty cool stuff. I can't really say I understand fully some of the stuff he's working on, but it seems like it's pretty cool. Some modular type things to be able to load modules and stuff easier into Open Simulator. None of it's really available yet, but I'm sure if you talk to him about it, he can explain it better, and maybe even get you into testing and helping him with it and debugging. So that's really important, especially the role you guys all play with helping all these developers debug and fix and filing bug reports. And it's it's why we're all standing here today, and why things are even though I didn't really make a good example of Sims running well today. I can't really blame that on Open Simulator. That was kind of my own fault. But when bugs do pop up, these guys are jumping on them and getting them fixed pretty quick, and been fun. Been a lot of fun working with all these developers. And you guys probably all know Snoopy too. She's Snoopy Pfeffer. She's here on OS Grid. She's really actually she does a lot of sim hosting here on the grid. But she's also one of the core developers. She's put in a few patches. She's relatively new, one of our newest developers on the team. But she does a lot here at OS Grid, and it's you know, if you see her, let her know. Say thanks to all these guys, because really without any of them, this project would just, you know, wouldn't be moving us forward like it is now. And you know, things are constantly happening, and it's great. A lot of good stuff happening. Some of the past developers who are no longer involved, I'd like to tell you about some of those guys, because these are like the pioneer guys who really got the whole project going and really made OS Grid even possible. You guys probably know most of them by name. I'm not sure how many of you have actually met them or talked to them. Most of them are just, you can't even get a hold of them anymore. But first guy is Darren Gard. You know him probably as MW, if you do know him. He was actually the guy who started this whole thing back in 2007. He was the guy who got the ball rolling with Open Simulator. It was his idea, his little project. I can't imagine he actually ever thought it would grow into, you know, what it's become. He's since moved on from project onto other things, but Blue Wall is one of our core developers. He's been working on some cool stuff lately. Like I said before, I don't really know exactly. I can't really explain fully what he's working on, but some of the stuff he's working on currently is to do with loading and unloading of modules more easily into Open Simulator and Robust. I know he's always looking for people to help with testing. He's also been working with Armin on some of the teapot stuff. Things seem back to normal. I think whatever network issue we were having may have passed, because things seem to be settling. Seem to be holding up pretty good. Geez, I wonder what other problems could arise. We've hit just about every one today, I think. We must be doing something right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Really sorry about these issues, but hopefully we can piece together a nice recording of this after this is all done and pretend like none of it ever happened. Like, yeah, it was perfect. Look at this video. Okay, well, everyone make sure your mics are not locked open. It doesn't sound like anybody is. Nice and quiet here for me. Try to get back on this and try to get things wrapped up here as quick as I can. I don't really have a whole much more to say. I kind of left off with talking about some of the old developers, Darren Gard and Stefan Anderson, MW and LBSA. Like I said, you know them from the plazas. LBSA Plaza is, we named that because of LBSA, and Wright Plaza was actually named from Darren Gard, whose avatar in Second Life was named Michael Wright. I'd like to say thank you to Adam Frisbee, who has been a big player in OS Grid. He was also a core developer previously. He's not really active much anymore. He actually started the first Open Simulator grid before OS Grid, believe it or not. We were actually the second grid to come into existence. But the first grid was Deep Grid. It was run by Deep Think, who was owned by Adam Frisbee, who in Second Life was named Adam Zayas, and Zayas Plaza is a tribute to him for all his contributions to OS Grid and Open Simulator. He did a lot of early things with like the map and physics and a lot of things like that. He also, his company currently donates a lot of hardware to the grid, which was actually originally part of Deep Grid. We eventually merged Deep Grid and OS Grid into one big grid because he had a lot of resources there, and it just made sense to kind of consolidate things and have one big happy grid. And he actually contributes some of the hardware we still run today for the plazas, which really keeps us going. You know, it's a pretty big contribution on his part. It runs a lot of our plazas. Actually, a couple servers. One runs the Right Plaza server. It runs the sandboxes. It also runs a lot of our homestead regions: Sea Prior Plaza, Terravis Plaza, and the Recreation Plaza, where Key Gruen and Aaron Gallen run a lot of the games that we do on a weekly basis, like the Prim Words and Speed Builds, which are a lot of fun. If you guys have not attended any of those, be sure to attend. It's a lot of fun. You can check with Key and Aaron on schedules and stuff like that, and they'll get you the information. I want to say thanks to another guy who really also was key in getting OS Grid running from the beginning. His name was Charles Krinke. He was actually the first administrator of the current OS Grid. He kind of took over from someone else who kind of left on bad terms, so we're not really going to talk too much about him today. But Charles, on the other hand, he jumped right in and took over, and that was really, for what I see, was really the beginning of OS Grid anyway. Before that, it was kind of just a mess and testing and not really much of a grid. But when Charles took over, he kind of got the ball rolling on what OS Grid is today. He was also a core developer, and he wasn't really, he did a lot of the LSL stuff and did a lot of testing. He was more into the testing side, kind of like I am, and he was the administrator here on OS Grid before me. He was actually the first president of the grid, and did a lot of work to get things set up with the basics of the grid, early websites and stuff like that, a lot of the database handling. And eventually I started helping him out, and I got involved as kind of like a assistant grid administrator from the beginning. So that's, I haven't been the leader of things from the very beginning. And Charles really gets to take that. And it's a shame I haven't really spoken to Charles in a long time. I definitely would like to speak to him, but he's just kind of faded away. And but still, he should be remembered because he was an important part of this grid, and always will be. Some of the other developers I want to talk about, the past developers, you probably may or may not know. Most of them haven't been around for a while. First one is Daniel Olivares. You probably guys know him as Terravis, and like I said, we have one of our homestead regions, Terravis Plaza, is named after him. He was very crucial in getting a lot of the physics working here. The Open Dynamics engine, you guys know as ODE. He did a lot of that work from the beginning. He didn't do all of it, but he was definitely probably one of the most important people in getting the physics engines. And he also did a lot of the early physics work on the bullet stuff. None of the bullet stuff that we have now is from him, but he did a lot of the early work showing that we could actually use bullet, and that's probably where we'll be heading in the future. We're actually making some progress this week with some of those physics. I had mentioned earlier a guy named Robert Adams who works at Intel. He's actually taken over on doing the physics stuff, and he's been pushing a lot on getting Bullet Sim working with Open Simulator, and kind of picked up where Terravis left off. And we should be able to actually be using that pretty soon, I would think. I don't have any kind of firm dates or anything, but he just got vehicles working apparently, and link sets and things like that. So it's probably not really ready 100% for prime time yet, but it's good progress, and I think it's is going to probably where we end up in the future. But we need to remember that Terravis is who really got the ball rolling, you could say, and pun intended, I guess you could say there as well. But another guy too that worked on that alongside of him, his name was Daniel Miller. He did a lot of work with Terravis from the beginning on with Open Dynamics as well. And his name, you may know him as Danksor. He hasn't really been around. He pops in every once in a while, and you may see him on IRC at times. But if you do, say hi, tell him thanks. Another great guy who was really instrumental in the beginning. His name was Sean Degg, and you probably know him as Stag, S-D-A-G-U-E, on the grid and on IRC. And he was real big with IBM in Second Life, and he kind of brought IBM into the Open Simulator fold. And you guys, I'm not sure how many of you know, but IBM actually did play a pretty big role in Open Simulator in the beginning, and contributed quite a bit of code to the project. And Sean was really the guy who kind of was on the forefront of that. He spearheaded the whole IBM and a lot of the work that they did. Sean set up our early code repositories, our SVN, and eventually transitioned us into Git and other, did a lot with the code management and with the testing, the automated testing, and integrating all the Mantis stuff into IRC so we can see all the bug reports and all the code stuff on IRC. He was really the guy who did all that, and was really important early on in the project. And unfortunately, IBM has kind of moved on to other things, and they're not really involved in Open Simulator anymore. And they've actually moved Sean onto other projects, so he's no longer involved. Not really by his choice, but because of what IBM was moving on to bigger, better things, I guess. And I really don't know what they're doing, but again, they were really important early on and did a lot to make OS Grid and Open Simulator what it is. So they should be remembered. Another guy from Intel who no longer works, who was also really important. His name was John Herleman. He was actually originally part of the Lib Second Life and LibOMV, and did a lot of early work there before Open Simulator was even a thought, really. And he it was a natural progression for him to move into Open Simulator, and he did a lot of things to really make Open Simulator better. And we'll really miss John. He was definitely one of the great guys, and really made this grid a lot better, and did a lot of testing here on the grid. And I worked really close with him on a lot of these guys. Just about everybody I mentioned today, I worked really close with, and I really appreciated everything they did. Not to mention all the current developers. I really appreciate everything they're doing, and how well, the line of communication they keep open with me and all of you guys. And we just need to constantly thank them and remind ourselves that what they do is really good stuff. All volunteer. They just do it for the love of doing it mostly. And a few other guys you probably don't even know exist, or they kind of live behind the scenes on the wiki. I just wanted to mention their names today because they probably never get any kind of recognition. Two guys are Makiko Nomura and a guy named Fritigern. They have been doing a lot of great work on the wiki, cleaning it up. And I know, and this is the Open Simulator wiki, not the OS Grid wiki. I just want to be clear on that. But that wiki is very key to this grid. There's a lot of good information up there. I know it can be confusing, and there's probably a lot of more cleanup work we can do. And if any of you guys are looking for things to volunteer who are not, you're not into the techie coding kind of stuff, that is one place you can definitely help contribute, is on the Open Simulator wiki. Doing cleanup, updating the old documents that are no longer relevant. If it's something any of you guys want to help out with or get into, you can just let me know, and I'll try to hook you up with those guys or help you out myself the best I can. And but I really just wanted to give those guys a mention because they, you probably never even heard their names, and they do a lot of work there, and greatly appreciated by me, and especially all the other developers, and I'm sure all of you guys. Just wanted to mention a few of the viewer developers. I wanted to give some of the viewer developers some recognition here today because, honestly, without the viewer developers, we would all really probably not be enjoying this grid nearly as much as we do, because we all know that the Second Life viewer is not the greatest viewer, and I would be surprised if anyone here is actually using a stock Second Life viewer today. And without these third-party developers, third-party viewer developers, our lives would not be as as pleasant as they are here on the grid. And I want to mention first who this is an old-time name who really hasn't been involved in Open Simulator or viewer development for a long time, but was probably one of the first developers to contribute a viewer that was dedicated solely, really, to being used on Open Simulator. Her name is Mana Janis, and she created the Hippo viewer, and she was really present here a lot early days on OS Grid. She was not only developer, but she used the grid, and I worked really close with her initially on the Hippo, and that was one of the reasons that OS Grid was the default grid on that viewer, because she really enjoyed this grid, and I really enjoyed working with her on that, and definitely someone who should always be remembered here on this grid, because she was definitely a pioneer in getting a viewer we could all use and love. And that Hippo viewer, got used for a really long time and really made things a lot easier here. So definitely need to remember her. Yeah, well, I really doubt anybody uses Hippo anymore. We've all moved on to bigger and better things, but she was the first, and definitely needs to be recognized, for that. And just wanted to mention her name today. Some of the other viewers, some of the more active viewers that are developers for the viewers. I think he was here earlier. I'm not sure if he's here now, but Armin Weatherwax, he's definitely one of the guys that is really active now with Open Simulator. He has his own viewer, Teapot, which he does a lot of his. Oh yeah, there he is. I do see him. He has his own viewer, Teapot, that he works on. That is going to be pretty much. I don't know if I could say it's going to be completely dedicated to Open Simulator, but it'll be a lot of where he does the platform integration stuff, where we'll be making viewers more Open Simulator friendly. He's also working with the Firestorm team to make that a little bit more Open Simulator friendly. I've heard that they're going to be making a viewer that's dedicated just to Open Simulator, and then have one that's dedicated just to Second Life. I don't know if that's true, but I'm sure he can answer that for us, and keep us filled in the future on maybe the forums, and we'll get stuff out on Twitter and other places to get that news to everybody, because that seems to be where most of the development is being done now for Open Simulator, and hopefully that'll bleed over into other projects as well. They'll cherry pick some of that code, and maybe it'll fall into Kokua and Singularity and ZenViewer, and it'll just be better for everybody. And I know Armin is always looking for people to help with testing, so if that's something you guys are interested in, definitely hook up with him, hook up with Blue Wall. Blue Wall's been also working with Armin on integrating some of this cool Open Simulator stuff into the viewers. So check with those guys, get involved. It'll definitely make things faster and better, and it's something that's definitely needed. We definitely need more people involved in the viewer side, because I think that's been kind of lacking a bit. Everybody loves working and testing with the grid side, with the simulators, but I think the viewer development has kind of been ignored a lot, not by the viewer developers, but by us testers. And it's something I think we all need to get involved more with to make things, just better for the developers, because they get better input from all of us, and it's just something that would help, I think. So let's all, if we can, do that. Some of the other developers I want to mention are from Imprudence. I can't forget Imprudence because that is also kind of took the reins from Hippo Viewer, and I know Armin was involved with Imprudence a bit. Jacek Antonelli I want to mention, who kind of started the whole Imprudence thing with McCabe Maxted. They kind of that was kind of their baby from the beginning, and I think it started out mostly as a Second Life viewer and kind of merged into Open Simulator later, but it really became almost the primary viewer for Open Simulator for a long time there. Kind of before V3 came along, I think most of us were either using Imprudence or Hippo Viewer, and it was great because both of the viewers kind of had OS Grid as their default grid for quite a long time, and it really, I think, was one of the keys to OS Grid's success, is that we had viewers that made it easy to get into this grid and give people a first kind of taste of Open Simulator, which is really what we wanted to do from the beginning. I know we've been kind of set up here as a test grid, but it was also not just for testing Open Simulator, but for giving people, not just for testing the Open Simulator code, but for giving people a chance to test Open Simulator itself to see if it was something they were interested in even. And I think a lot of people's first experience with Open Simulator was here on OS Grid, which is really great. And I think it's still, even to this day, it's something that a lot of people's first experience is here. So that's great, and we need to thank the viewer developers for that, because they made it so easy to get here into OS Grid, and not only into OS Grid but other grids as well. So I want to thank all those guys. I want to thank Nick Parian, Barundas Gupta, Kentron Cantana. They were all Imprudence Kokua guys, and if you see them, most of those guys are around still. You'll see them on IRC. You probably won't see them much here in this grid. You may see them over on Third Rock Grid, where Kokua has its meetings every week. And if you can, you should probably stop into one of those every now and then and help out and give your take on how you feel things are working, and just let them know. I'm sure they would appreciate that. I want to thank Sienna Gears, who works on Singularity Viewer. She also makes a really great viewer that works really well here in Open Simulator. And definitely she's around a lot, and I'm sure she'd love to hear your input on anything about stuff with her viewer, and maybe other viewers. I know she contributes to other viewer projects as well. She's contributed a lot to Imprudence and Kokua, and probably just about every viewer that you've actually tried probably has a little bit of her code in it. And that could probably be said for just about all the viewer developers, really. And another viewer developer who's not really so much involved here in OS Grid and Open Simulator, but really makes another good viewer, is the Zen viewer, Zena Duran. If you haven't tried Zen viewer, and you're a Windows viewer, unfortunately it's just for Windows now, but give it a try, see if you like it. It's a good viewer. I know a lot of people out there like Firestorm and other things. I'm personally using Zen viewer right now myself. I really like it. So I just wanted to mention all these viewer developers, because they're all like I said, play a really important role here, and they deserve to be recognized. And I hope you guys all appreciate the work they do. And there's a few, I just want to mention a few of the other grids who you probably all have heard of, who actually have contributed a lot of code back to Open Simulator, who actually make OS Grid a better place. And even though they're not really directly involved here in OS Grid, they've contributed a lot of code that makes OS Grid better. Like I mentioned before, Deep Grid, which was Adam Frisbee's grid, which is no longer around, but early on, that really played a huge role here. I wanted to mention Third Rock Grid. They've done a lot of testing and a lot of, I think they've even given back some patches, but they host the Imprudence and Kokua meetings every week, so that was really great of them to do that. I want to mention Reaction Grid, who has also played a really big role in some of the code that's gone into Open Simulator Core. They did a lot of the Microsoft SQL stuff and many other patches that have all contributed to OS Grid. I want to mention Science Sim, which is the Intel grid. It's owned by Intel and operated by Intel employees, and they've contributed a tremendous amount of code, like I'd mentioned earlier. And if you haven't checked out Science Sim, it's definitely something you should go check out, because it's a really cool grid. It's mostly dedicated to science projects and development, and it's a not-for-profit as well, kind of like OS Grid. Anybody can host a region there. You really, you're only going to want to host a region there if you're doing kind of sciencey type of stuff. But it's definitely a cool place to visit. There's a lot of neat things over there, and we've also done a lot of load testing and stuff like that there. And we work really close with those guys, and they've been a lot of help. And it's a cool grid, so check it out. I want to mention Abination. And Melanie, who's core developer, she runs that grid, and they do a lot of testing and a lot of code development there. And they've contributed back just about more than any other grid besides OS Grid. I would say they probably contributed the most back to Open Simulator, and they work really closely with us here in getting things working the way they should work, and doing patching and fixing. So it's really it's not my cup of tea. I don't really hang out there much. I go over there every once in a while, but check it out. Say hi to Melanie. Thank her for the great stuff. And the last grid I want to mention is, it's not really so much a grid, but it's kind of a mix between a grid and standalones. Is that Kitely grid, or Kitely Open Simulator service, I should say. They've definitely contributed some stuff, great stuff back, and they do a lot of promotion for OpenSim, and they're really offering some great services over there. Again, I haven't really spent much time there, but I definitely thought they deserved a mention here today because of all the great stuff they've given back. And really, that's what OS Grid is really all about in my eyes. It's about giving back to everybody and giving a place where everybody can share what they do, and allow people to give back, not just code and testing, but the great stuff they build, and the freebies and the clothes and avatars, and and it's all the stuff that leaves this grid and goes out to the other grids, the freebies and the scripts and just the ideas. It's just a great place for people to share ideas, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun for me. I know it's been a lot of fun for all of you guys. I enjoy sharing stuff that I do, and I hope you guys all enjoy it. I know you probably wouldn't even be here today if you didn't. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say, and I'm glad the Sim's holding up here good at the end. It was kind of a shame that we couldn't make it all the way through, but them's the breaks, as they say. And yeah, I'm definitely going to give the stage back now to Graybeard and Aaron. And again, make sure everybody thanks Graybeard and Aaron for putting this whole thing together, because honestly, I just didn't have the time this year, and without them, yeah, no, Erin's not singing, but she's kind of the stage manager this year, and so everybody thank them for really all the great work they've done, all this great work on all these Sims and getting everybody into their parcels, and it's really been a lot of fun. And I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. I'll be hanging out for a while, so if anybody wants to talk or has questions, just let me know, and yeah, have fun, everyone.